What is good, boxing community? Renee Box Young, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate each and every one of you. Everybody who has been supporting, you know what I'm saying? Everybody who has been jumping in on the lives, having a blast. As I constantly say, man, we are one community. All nothing but love towards each and every one of you, definitely. And with the panel, also, we got Reggie Owens, we got Stormy B Man. Y'all know who it is, right? We got Kurtis Anderson. They've been pushing out some great content recently, man. And as always, they do, right? And for the fact that boxing is back, it's coming out, it's coming back, in an incremental fashion. We got some great up and coming fights. Daniel Dubois, as a matter of fact, Reggie Owens is going to call the Daniel Dubois fight, later today when it goes out, right, when it starts. So, Stormy B-Man was talking about it in his session last night. His chop session, I think it was on Friday, yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, he was going about it, talking about how boxing is coming back, you know what I'm saying? And even though it's a hard year, everybody, you know what I'm saying? It's a hard year. We got to keep our heads up, family. You know what I'm saying? We are one community. We are family, and I thank you so much for those who are jumping in the building already, man. Thank you guys. I appreciate each and every one of you. Always keep that virtual door open, man. And it's always an honor for me, man. I love them, man. You know what I'm saying? Love the family, all those who come in the chat and the comments, who join in, and love these guys, man. Kurtis Anderson, Stormy B, Reggie Owens. First and foremost, how you doing, Kurtis? You good?
Oh man, I'm good, man. What's up to the panel? Renee Box Young, you got a great channel, man. What's up to the chat? We got some boxing going on right now. Later today, Ramirez versus Postol and the boys and Lara. So I'm looking forward to that, man. Ready to talk some boxing.
Heck yeah, definitely, bro. Stormy B, how you doing, bro? All good?
Yes, sir. I'm all good, man. Glad to be here. And as Kurtis said, let's get to talking some boxing, man.
Definitely, man. Reggie, how you doing, bro?
Oh man, I'm doing good, man. Can't complain one bit.
It's all good, man. Heck yeah, man. Soccer Training Club, thanks so much for joining. He's up in the building. Thank you so much. And those who are entering, like I said, keep that virtual door open, man. We're going to talk some boxing and got a special treat for you all, man. If you can see in the description, I got to explain there, right? The link is in the description, so we won't infringe any copyright stuff or whatever, right? As far as websites and stuff like that. But we got a special treat for you guys in the middle of this session. So it's going to be fun, man. It's going to be fun. Derek Bailey's in the building. What is good, Derek Bailey? Soccer Training Club, right? Saluting everybody. Thanks so much, Derek Bailey. Kenneth Johnson, salute, bro. Thank you so much for tuning in, man. I appreciate each and every one of you as always, man. We are one community, and it's a blast to have each and every one of you guys here, man. And so let's get to it. Let's get to the bullet points, man. As you guys can see in the description, if anybody hasn't read them, we're going to talk about, first and foremost, all right, we're going to talk about the mindset of fighters, all right? There's so much to talk about in this aspect, and obviously, and all points that and angles that we can talk about when it comes to fighters in the sport of boxing, right? So many things to talk about, and I want to first talk about the first bullet point here. I wrote down here. It's what type of mindset or psyche, right, did fighters step into the ring with historically and now? You know what I'm saying? So, what type of mindset? I'm sure. I mean, it varies. Between fighters. I mean, each fighter probably has a different mindset, what their approach is when they come into the ring, or when they come before they fight, they're in the dressing room. What are they thinking before they fight? You know what I'm saying? So what's the mindset of fighters? You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's different historically than now. First, before we get, we'll start with Kurtis in a moment, but first, we also have a mix of emotionalism also, with fighters. Like, you go to Hagler versus Hearn, right? If I'm not mistaken, that is probably the round of, the most action-packed round. It has been said, first round is was the most action-packed in all of boxing history, man. And there was a lot of emotion in that first round. I mean, you can see when the bell rang, right after the first round, when the bell rang, after they were just slugging it out, man. Wow, going back and forth. You can just see the expression on their faces, man, when they were going to the corners. They didn't want to stop, man. They just wanted to keep going. Even though the bell rang after the first round, it looked like they just wanted to keep going at it until the opponent went down. A lot of emotion. So, Kurtis, what do you understand of, or what can you tell us? What input can you give us concerning the mindset of fighters, man? When historically speaking, with fighters back in the day, man, what did you perceive in fighters as far as their mentality?
Well, that fighters yesterday and fighters today, it depends on the individual. Like you had Jack Dempsey, who was a vicious fighter, and he lived like how he fought in the ring, fast and furious. Jack Dempsey liked to party, and when he got into the ring, it was no filling out process. He came at you hard and heavy. That was his mentality. Every fight has his own energy, and every fighter, has their own way of going about things. Then you see a Joe Louis who was quiet, but he had the 3 C's. He was cool, calm, and collected, and cold and clinical. He was an assassin, but he was very quiet, and that's how he was out the ring. Then you have somebody like Ali, who was loud and boisterous, outside the ring, even though it was psychological to, intimidate his opponents. And when he fought with a lot of swag, as the kids say, and flamboyancy. He was fast, and, he let you know it. So when you see a guy, a guy who's highly skilled, and they brag about themselves, it bothers fighters that are bullies. Like, that bothers Sonny Liston. Sonny Liston thought he was crazy. And that's the only thing a bully's scared of is the crazy person, as my father always told me when I was young. Then you have Mike Tyson, who had the Darth Vader like attitude, and we all know Mike could punch. And with his personality out the ring, his dark personality out the ring, and knocking guys out, he won a lot of his fights before the fight started. And then you go to Wilfredo Gomez. Wilfredo Gomez was a killer. He'll hit you when you're falling down. He'll hit you with elbows like he did Lupe Pintor. He'll hit you on the canvas like he did Carlos Arate. But Wilfredo Gomez had this meanness to him, man. He was nasty. When you look at his highlights, Gomez, you can see him talking to fighters as he's knocking them out. That's how he was. I mean, this is a guy who had 7 straight knockouts and title defenses. That's a record. He had 32 straight knockouts, tied with Deontay Wilder. And then Deontay Wilder, a confident fighter who relies on his right hand. He was so confident. If you look at his highlights, when he hit a fighter, he will turn around and put his arm behind his back like he's saluting you in a funny way. He'll walk back to a neutral corner. So all these fighters I'm bringing up, had their own way of doing things. Julio Cesar Chavez was a guy who relied on breaking you down, and he had like a quiet arrogance about him. Same with Holyfield and Chavez, they never talked, but they had that quiet arrogance because they were so confident that they was going to get you out of there. So every fighter has his own personality and mindset and psyche. Some of it was to play games on the opponent's psychic itself, and most times it worked. Sonny Liston was another one. So it depends on the fighter. This transcends eras. So it was always what kind of personality the fighter had.
Wow. So yes, I mean, definitely, right? It depends on the personality of fighters. There's one thing I want to get to with Reggie, and then we're going to go Stormy. Reggie, how do you see it though? Like now, do you see a similarity of what Kurtis is saying? Do you see more maybe intensity when it comes to the mentality of fighters nowadays in this day and age, right? With fighters in this era, do you see more like are they more on edge? Are they more emotional? Are they more intense? Are they more laid back? Obviously, I mean, there's so many personalities out there, but how do you see it, Reggie Owens, with fighters nowadays?
Nowadays, you get a few fighters that are what people call throwbacks, but I think looking at past eras and even hearing older people talk, like when you talk about then, many guys handle things from the shoulders. It wasn't people quick to pick up guns or needing to call a homie, a friend here and there to help fight for you and things like that. A lot of things were settled from man standing up like man. And when I like I always say, as a kid, I always hung around older cats. I grew up around gangsters. And back then, before a lot of gunplay, and even before I was born, a lot of times when you hear them talk, it's about who had the best hands. And so, because I think societal norms kind of shift things, environmental norms shift things. They fought a lot back then. And that's why you see old age fighters tend to have these records that go well beyond 50, 60 fights and stuff. But they lived in an environment where they fought like men. They wanted to prove themselves as men, and fans and society respected fighters. So it's like they had a lot riding on them. Society shaped a lot of things, and it was an honorable thing to be viewed as a fighter. So I think the past eras, and it used to be hard for me to accept that. I always looked at the newer era as being kind of a advancing or an evolving era. But when I go to like really start researching and looking on things and reflecting back on what I used to hear as a kid, you realize these guys were much tougher back then. And that's what it was about. It was always about men proving themselves as who was the baddest. And you just don't see too much of that nowadays. Like, you hear a lot of the talk is about who's ducking who. You have money that interferes with a lot of things getting done rather than guys getting in there really proving themselves. And even if money ain't the factor, you get guys who are worried about taking losses. Back then, it didn't matter. You just want to get in there who was the toughest guy, and you want to prove yourself that he wasn't. So I think that's the difference between then and now. Those guys are rough, tough as hell. And I think societal norms, environmental and communal norms play a factor in that. And that's what I have on that.
Just like you said, Reggie, I think would come from the same, like, as far as, generationally speaking, right? Decades and stuff like that, era, I guess we can say. I remember, where I was growing up, I remember talking about it sometime before with Kurtis also, where I was growing up, down over there in Arizona, man, it was common to see like racists, right? White supremacists and, the Latins and things like that. And they would constantly have fights, man. I mean, it would be like that. It would be pretty much, I don't like you because of your skin color and this and that. I mean, it wouldn't get to extremes as far as gun violence or anything like that. No, they would just go at it with fists, man. They would fight toe to toe, man. They would go meet up at the park and boom, man. And I constantly saw that growing up, man. I constantly saw it. Thankfully, I wouldn't get in the mix of that. But obviously, I had friends or what have you, associates, right? People, acquaintances of the neighborhood, whatever. I never got into that stuff. I never fussed about it, man. But, people who I knew and we would go see it, and it would just be so constant, man. And it would be more like that. That's what I'm trying to get at here, that, it would just be more toe to toe stuff, man. And I'm sure, like you said, Reggie, back in the day, even before that, it was a lot more, man. And we obviously see it with the fighters, man. Stormy, how do you see it, man? What can you say, like, according to your perspective, how was the mindset of fighters back in the day, man?
Well, I think that the primary ideal and mindset of a fighter was easily exemplified by having to fight for something in life. Whether it was the struggle for the quality of life that you live and you want to make a better way for yourself and your family, whether it was due to your nationality and where you come from and how you want to uphold the mantle of dignity as a person with what your nationality may be. And also mixed in with the fact that there were just some people who enjoy putting their hands on somebody and hurting the other guy. That's a reality that we can't leave out. The fact that someone who relishes and enjoys going upside the head of someone else and seeing them buckle under their physicality. People also like to see that, watch it, observe it. Okay. And so that's something that can't be left out. And fighters with that type of mindset in the day gone by would lay it down any day of the week. We once did a 3 Wise Men of Boxing where we dedicated the amazing life of Archie Moore. And he happened upon a guy having a street fight, one time, and he stopped to observe it. And he thought it was beautiful watching these two men in the streets go at it. You know what I'm saying? So that means you have to have a certain type of mindset when you embrace that and even still want to participate in that. Fighters of today, a lot of them may be involved in the sport, participating in the sport for some of the wrong reasons, which is why you see titles change hands so much, because it's one thing to win a title. Anyone can pretty much win a title because you could get a lucky shot in, invest the guy, cut him real bad where he can't continue or something like that, knock him out with a single shot or something and become a champion. But real champions understand championship medal by understanding what it takes to retain the title, to defend and retain the title and have a title reign. So it's like, I've spoke of this often in my last few streams that I brought up, and that the mindset has to be that you understand what it is to retain, and you want to show that and fight for something beyond what's accessible by material. You know, once you've bought your mom a house like you've always wanted to do, once you've got that car that you always wanted to have, the woman on your arm that you always craved and desired, a few dollars in the bank, clothes, you know what I'm saying? Okay, now what are you fighting for? See, Marvin Hagler said it's hard to get up when you're sleeping on silk sheets, you know? So when you think about those things, and why would someone continue to do this? Why am I allowing someone to bash me upside the head? Why should I continue to put myself through these rigorous trainings and depriving my body and all of that stuff? And, you know, all of this has to come from a certain place. So a fighter who has a particular mentality toward what he does definitely has to set a purpose, a goal for going through this on a continuous basis for over a duration of time. You have to have something set aside and a reason to do it with purpose for any enduring amount of time. I often remarked also about using the fight that took place between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman in Africa as an example, because I feel like if that fight would have happened in the US, it may not have gone the way it ended up going historically. By going over to Africa, Ali was able to tap into something different for himself. And that was the people of Africa who took kindly to him. Okay. And he drew strength from that. And the strength that he drew from that allowed him to go in and face one of the baddest men in the sport at that time, where he didn't worry anymore about himself because he felt like he was fighting for something more than himself. Remember, he regained his title in that fight, a title that he was wrongfully stripped of and everything. So it's like to go and do that. Remember, if he had gone into that, I just want my title back, he could have run into something with George Foreman and gotten really the end result that Joe Frazier and Ken Norton and other fighters had faced before that. But he went in with something else. He drew us, and it motivated him in a different sense, almost to the degree that or what he had to offer, which he kind of did metaphorically, but he took punishment. Let's not deny that. But he found something greater than himself to fight for. And that was a nation of people who backed him and believed in him. And that was just enough to push him over the peak of where he needed to be. And he came out victorious. So that's an example. So when the guys of today, if they are fighting with a limited insight as to why they should be doing what they're doing, you'll also see the end results of their efforts being limited as well, because they haven't set their sights beyond the material, the things that are easily possessed. You always set goals that are hard to attain, not what's easy, because once you have what's easy, you rest on your laurels, you take your foot off the gas, you decide maybe that's it for me, and you check out. Sometimes mentally, a lot of times spiritually, and definitely what will be to follow is physically.
Wow, man. I mean, This is interesting. You know what caught my attention a lot was Stormy's B was explaining right now with Muhammad Ali is that, you know, exactly what he said, that fighting in Africa, had that fight been against George Foreman in the US, it probably would have been different. Interesting. And how he mentioned that, you know, how you mentioned, bro, that fighting, you know, Ali was fighting for something greater than himself. You know, he got the motivation from the people, right? And it went a lot more beyond than just getting a title, a lot more beyond than just himself, maybe a lot more beyond pride. It just went way beyond the limits, which gave him a really big motivating factor. And that's kind of like what the next point is about. But before we get to that, Kurtis, I kind of want to get you on this with this because Kurtis was talking. We were talking a little bit. We were chopping it up before we got live, before we went live, and I remember we were talking a little bit about, and we talked about this before too in some lives before a while ago, some months ago with Kurtis about, you know, thankfully that you're good now from the coronavirus, man. You survived it, doing great, man. Awesome stuff. And how I related my story also and shared it with the stream that day, that how I suffered vertigo. You know, something happened where I just suffered vertigo, man. Everything was spinning, dizzy, went to the hospital, got IV'd up. And then Daniel Jacobs came to mind. And this is where I'm talking about. This is where it relates to the mindset of a fighter, man. Daniel Jacobs, man, amazing story. How, and I want Kurtis to elaborate on this, on somebody that he mentioned when I was talking about this while we were chopping it up before live, that how Daniel Jacobs survived cancer and doctors told him that he wasn't going to be able to fight anymore. Man, Daniel Jacobs, man, I don't know where he got his motivation from. I really didn't hear too many interviews after that incident. I did see a mini documentary about Daniel Jacobs about it, but I don't remember him saying like what really motivated him. But it's just his fighting spirit. You know, Daniel Jacobs' fighting spirit, man, that kept him going. You know, him as a fighter, as a boxer, and translating that energy, channeling that energy to overcome cancer, man, and overcome doctors telling him you're not going to fight again. You're not going to be able to do your. And that's exactly why it got me what Stormy was saying right now. Daniel Jacobs was fighting for something greater than himself, man, fighting for his family, fighting for, you know, more important things beyond himself. And it looks like that's what pushed Daniel Jacobs. And look at him now, man. He's well. Actually, in a recent, not recent, I mean, everything that seems recent to me because time goes by so fast. I remember Daniel Jacobs was in an interview by DAZN or something like that. And they touched upon this issue. And the person that was, I don't even remember who it was, but one of those DAZN guys were interviewing Daniel Jacobs. And they said something they questioned him along the lines of, hey, do you remember, you know, that when you had cancer, does that stick in your mind? And he says, I think about it every single day that he wakes up every morning, because he has a slight after effect of the cancer or the surgery, something along those lines, on his toe. I don't remember where in his body, but he said something, I think along the lines of his feet or in his toe. He feels a tingling sensation. So he said, every morning I wake up, I am reminded of my battle with cancer and how I overcome it. That's powerful. I mean, that you know, the mindset of a fighter, it goes deep depending on who the fighter is, obviously. But when it comes to fighters like Stormy B was talking about right now, a moment ago, with Muhammad Ali, man, he was fighting for something greater than himself. When it comes to those types of fighters who fight, you know, who have that mindset and say, I'm going to fight, I'm fighting for something beyond this. I'm fighting for legacy. I'm not fighting just for a paycheck. I'm not fighting just for a belt, which, you know, unfortunately nowadays, we already talked about it in sanctioning bodies, you know, and other parts of a series. You know, sanctioning bodies, we all know, politics, money. I mean, nowadays, belts aren't really that reputable anymore. When it comes to a fighter who says, I'm not just fighting for a belt, I'm not just fighting for a check, I'm not just fighting for this and that, it goes beyond that. Those types of fighters, man, they leave amazing impact. They leave, you know, their footprint behind and for generations to come. Kurtis, who were you talking about earlier when it came to that? When we were talking about, you know, Daniel Jacobs and how he survived. Who was that fighter you were talking about?
Oh, you talking about Vinny Pazienza?
I think so. You mentioned him before we went live. We were talking about how I think he overcame something, right? What was it exactly?
Well, Vinny Pazienza was in a terrible car wreck, and he broke his neck. And you know, they say he won't fight again for sure. And he came back like nothing happened. He came back stronger than ever. Excuse me. And Sandy Sadler was in a car wreck. You see fighters go through this. It depends on your attitude and your genetics if you're going to survive or not. We're waiting to see how Earl Spence is going to respond when he gets in the ring with Garcia on November 21st. But Danny Jacobs, is a strong-minded individual to go through that and fight, and got a career payday against Canelo, even though he didn't win. But the fight, and you're losing your grandmother on the same day you had a fight, that's tough, man. When he got knocked out by Pirog, but that's tough, man, to come back and in boxing and perform like he did, man. That's a made for TV movie. But many fighters have gone through things and mental illnesses and cancer and broken limbs, and and the doctor said they'll never fight again, and they not only they fought but became champions. So the mindset of a fighter. Some guys are stronger than others. Some guys just give up, and some guys don't. Me having COVID-19 in March, man. Being a diabetic. That was that was tough, man. I never been sick like that, but my spirits was always lifted because I'm a true believer in God, a higher power. So anything that can get you over the hump is good psychologically.
Man, amazing stuff, man. How fighters and you know what I'm saying, as an actual, survivor of COVID, man, how you went over that, and we got to fight, man. We got to fight. And like you said, believing in a higher power. And as a matter of fact, soccer training clubs talk a little bit about that. Ali fought spiritually. Wow. And smart, edge over power. Real quick before we continue this, it's amazing stuff, man. I mean, Bruce Goes is in the building. I really appreciate you, man. I thank you so much for joining. D Hodges is up in the building also. Man, y'all are jumping in. Derek Bailey, I don't remember if I saluted you, but salute, brother. Thank you so much, everybody who's jumping in the building. Remember to get them likes up. I like to make these little pauses, right? Little pauses just to remind those if there are any new people jumping in here. Go subscribe to Stormy B, man, right? Go subscribe to Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens. Let me highlight their comments real quick so y'all can see Stormy B, man, right there. You can find him at Stormy B, man, right there on YouTube. You can also find Reggie Owens, right? Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens. He also has a backup channel, which is number 2 at the end of his the title, Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens 2. So the mindset of fighters, man, it goes beyond. You know what I'm saying? The strong fighters who just overcome. Stormy, real quick, I want to get to Reggie right after this, but Stormy, do you recall of any specific fighters breaking under the pressure, breaking under the pressure of certain trials and tribulations in life, like, Kurtis Anderson was talking about right now. Like, there are so many things that fighters go through, and we as people, right? But do you know of any fighters historically who just broke under pressure and just never came back to fighting?
When you ask that question, are you asking, did they break in the ring? Are they outside the ring, or what?
Yeah, like they just stopped fighting, or just stopped, didn't return to fighting, or maybe didn't return to fighting as they did before.
I'm sure there may be a few. That's something that I would have to really look and think into, because on the surface of thinking about fighters, that's not something that's the first thing that I would think about them or whatever. But I'm sure there are fighters who, due to trial in their lives, have not been able to perform, in the sport, and may not have been able to return to a place of familiarity in the sport as a result of, outside the ring circumstances. But I would have to think about that.
No, it's all good. It's all good. This all intertwines also with something I mentioned earlier, as far as, the mindset of boxers, their motivation. What are the motivating factors they have? Also with emotionalism, what I was just mentioning a moment ago at the beginning of this whole live, that, emotionalism. I want to get to Reggie Owens, and we'll get to everybody else here. Reggie, when it comes to fighting emotionally, do you think that it's a dangerous thing, when it comes to the mindset of a fighter? When a fighter comes in to fight, before a fight, Do you think fighting emotionally can be dangerous?
Hell yeah, because you need your brain to function when you're in there thinking emotionally. That brain is partly shut off and you're not sticking to a plan. Sometimes in the high level of fighting, you have to use your brain. You have to use a plan. You see that a lot with fighters who abandon their plan. They don't fight their fight because their emotions are drawn. Their emotions are affecting their ability to perform at a high level. One of the best people I've seen who can control their emotions in the fight has been Anderson Silva, and followed by Floyd Mayweather. Anderson Silva was a great controller of being emotional in the fight. But the emotions, man, you got to put that shit in your back pocket. You see people who react emotionally, how it can affect them in life. They're making irrational decisions. Thinking emotionally, you make irrational decisions in that ring. It costs you your damn chin. So I think it can be a detrimental thing, but sometimes you need a little bit of emotions in the fight. There needs to be a balance of it. And if you're fighting off 100% emotions, that's where you're going to end up suffering. But you have to have some level of emotions going into a fight. You have to have a certain type of emotion, an emotion of possible anger, where you have to have that killer instinct, because that's also what ended up affecting Tyson partly towards the latter stages of his career, when he lost the emotion of becoming that killer inside the ring, and it faded away. So you want to have a little bit of that, but more of the brain has to be there for you to function at a high level inside that ring. You see the Charlos do it, who people are always bringing up. They react a lot emotionally, but physically, skill-wise, they happen to be a little bit above the folks that they fight. But as they move into greater competition, they have to have a little bit of more balance and control when it comes to emotional intelligence is one of the key factors in this thing. But yeah, I think emotions will definitely play a part in the fight.
You know, when you mention the Charlos, Mel Charlo, when he fought Tony Harrison for the first time, right? And then the whole build up before the rematch. Wow. Charlo and Harrison before the rematch, the whole build up. Charlo was quite emotional, you know, and a lot of people think that the Charlos are a little bit too emotional. But the thing here is that Mel Charlo, specifically speaking of Mel, we saw recently, right, the whole, you know, him yelling at his brother on social media, you know, and then a little bit shortly after that, just a little brotherly fuss, right? Just a little brotherly back and forth. But when I saw it, I was like, whoa, this is serious stuff, man, because, you know, Mel Charlo, man, he was going off. I think it was on Instagram, man. He was just yelling. And I was like, man, if he meets his brother, they're going to go fight it. They're going to fight, man. Something's going to happen. But, you know, looks like it was just a little brotherly issues, you know, family stuff, you know, and then afterwards they were, you know, they're cool now or what have you. But a lot of people think that, you know, but the reason why I say is because Charlo, before the rematch with Harrison, I think he was even getting to the point of crying. I don't know if you guys can correct me on that, but in one of the press conferences, he was just he was pretty emotional, man, quite angry. You know, him saying that he got robbed and things of that nature, right? But the thing here I want to get at is that when they fought in the rematch, watch this, Charlo could have gotten carried away with his emotions in the fight, in the rematch, because if you guys remember when Harrison was fighting on the inside, right? I don't know why he was just fighting more on the inside. It was way different than what he was doing in the first fight, right? Harrison boxing at a distance, boxing, jabbing, and things of that nature, using his footwork. He was fighting more on the inside. And if you guys remember, Harrison started like taunting. Harrison started being cocky in the ring. But Charlo was under control, even though Harrison was being cocky. Yeah, even though he started, you know, doing some, you know, physical reactions, you know, messing with him, toying with him, like, oh, like that didn't hurt and things of that nature. Charlo could have gotten really emotional, but he kept his emotions under control. Boom, popped him at the right time. Then it was KO. Then it was game over, TKO. So interestingly that you mentioned the Charlos, because the Charlos, they look quite, you know, under control in the ring. Let me get real quick to Kurtis. You know, Kurtis, I was reminded of also when we talk about this, you know, the mindset of fighters and mixing it in with emotionalism, okay? Because emotionalism does go hand in hand with this. I remember I watched a couple of fights recently, you know, Mike Tyson and McNeely. Mike Tyson and McNeely. And then I went to see another fight of McNeely after I saw that. This was some time ago. Him fighting Butterbean. What was Butterbean's real name? Eric Butterbean.
Eric
Yeah,
Eric
thank you. Yeah, Eric Esch. Yeah, Butterbean. It seemed like McNeely was more of an emotional fighter, because when I see those, when I saw him fight Mike Tyson, he just ran in there and just started boom, 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 just throwing blows, like emotionally, because you can even see in the buildup of their face off. McNeely was just trying to act like a bully, you know, kind of emotional. I kind of saw it like that. And then when he fought Eric, same thing, man. He just went in there, running in there, not really the best technique, just going in there and throwing blows, trying to take the guy's head off. Do you think that's effective, Kurtis Anderson, with certain fighters, maybe fighting? Oh, also with Hagler, Hearns. Do you think that there was more emotion in that first round, in that whole fight? Actually, was there more emotion, and does that benefit fighters? You know, the emotion aspect of the mindset of a fighter.
It can go both ways. Like Roberto Duran fought with a lot of emotion, but he was skilled. Mike Tyson fought with a lot of emotion. At his best, I used to call it controlled fury, where even though he was emotional, it was kept in a bottle. That's the same with Roberto Duran. I remember Roberto Duran fought a guy from Ohio named Ray Lampkin, and when he knocked him out and they asked him in the interview, Duran said, I was in good shape, I'll send him to the hospital. If I was in better shape, I would have sent him to the morgue. You know, that was funny, but that was Duran. And even there's a video Al Pacino said his character was based on Roberto Duran. You know, that's what he said, you know, because Roberto Duran, Joe Frazier said that he reminds me of a Charles Manson, you know, with the heavy beard, you know, and, you know, I thought that was telling, man, you know, and Duran was known as being mean and nasty, just like Tony Ayala was, you know. But if you're emotional, but if you can control it, and most people can't, then you can use it as an effective tool. But you don't have to be emotional to be vicious. Like Miguel Cotto, I remember the face-off, him and Margarito, when they had the face-off, and Margarito said, "You're gonna have to kill me in a ring," and Miguel Cotto said, "Nah, I don't want to die in the ring. I got a family to go to." You know, it's just the contrast of attitudes. But when they both got in the ring, they both was killers. This what makes boxing. This what makes boxing so interesting and compelling. Because Cotto was a killer, man. You know, but the Charlos, it was in the locker room. The older Jamal Charlo, after Jamel lost to Tony Harrison,
Yeah.
Jamal started crying.
Yeah.
You know, and it affected his fight with what was it? Who did he fight?
Korobov?
Yeah, thank you. Karabov. And you know, and I was like, that's not good. They shouldn't fight on the same card. You know, when you have emotions and you wear it on your sleeve, it's not good. You can have emotions, but you have to keep it in a can or in a bottle, I should say. You know, you have to keep it, you know, controlled. Like I said, control fury. That was Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson used to come out in the first round and attack, you know, but he was calculating. He was cold and clinical. That's how you control emotion. But if you're wild and crying and getting out of control, and then, you know, the game plan, you throw that out the window. Like Kevin Kelly, when he fought Prince Nassim Hamed, all he had to do was box and let Hamed run into something. He was controlling the fight, but he let his emotions of the crowd get to him, you know, and he deviated from the game plan, and Hamed took him out. But then you have another fighter like Ricky Hatton, who will feed off the energy of his wild crowd of England, and then he used it effectively, you know, until he met Floyd. But when you go look at when he fought Costa Zoo, you know, that was a mugging in Central Park. He fed off the crowd and he mugged Costa Zoo, so it was a plus for him.
Wow, man. I want to jump to Stormy real quick. Speaking of that, when it comes to the crowd, Stormy, like your personal opinion, bro, do you think that the crowd, now that there's no crowds, right, when it comes to fights, does that affect the motivation of a fighter in a ring nowadays with no crowds?
It shouldn't. You don't have a crowd when you're in the gym training and sparring. If anything, it should allow you to focus more on what your task is at hand. However, the mentally weak and deficient will allow something like that to bother them. You're supposed to drown the crowd out when you're focused on a fight in the first place. So again, here we talk about mental strength here when you're facing an opponent or you're dealing with a matter of someone trying to take you out, so to speak. So you have to be focused and dialed in on the task at hand. I think that a lot of people will always look for excuses and things to fall back upon. But when you're in that ring and that bell rings and you have to face the opponent, everything outside of kind of keeping the ear out for what your coaches and trainers are alerting you to, that should be the extent of it. But that's not always the case. But again, it's what you should be conditioned for. And again, when I say conditioned, these are the things that you are prepped for while you're in training, way before you have the first match or whatever. These are the type of things that are supposed to be drilled in. And there are some fighters who are totally dialed in. I can tell you that Floyd Mayweather was a multitasker out there. He could be focused in on who he's in there with, how dangerous they were, because that would be where he wouldn't allow them to have the advantages that they were supposed to be bringing into the ring with him, and still be mindful of where he is in the round, watching the clock, watching your corner, watching everything. He was a multitasker, and there's not a lot of people who can multitask, but that's an example of that, and still be focused in and dialed in on what he had to do to you. So again, it's about that mental strength. You don't worry about the crowds, man. You worry about what your objective is when you go in there once that bell rings, and how you go about executing it.
When you mentioned that about Floyd Mayweather, I remember Andre Berto. He was interviewed, after he fought, I don't know how long after, but after he fought Floyd Mayweather, and he was asked about how it was fighting Floyd. It's exactly what Stormy B-Man was saying right now, that, Berto was blown away, by the fact of, when he was toe-to-toe there with Mayweather, how he even got to the detail, Andre Berto. And this is the thing, like what Stormy B saying, that, a fighter who is focused on the game plan, who is focused, who zones out the crowd, who is not affected by the crowd, but by the game plan and the more important things of the fight. Andre Berto was getting into details of when they clinched up, how he would breathe, how Mayweather would breathe, strategically breathe to catch his breath, while and then when they broke up, fight time again, boom, and like you said, exactly, looking at the clock, paying attention to every aspect of the ring, multitasking. I mean, that is just amazing stuff right there. And, those who are entering the building, we're talking about the mindset of boxers. And I want to get back real quick, as a motivating factor, what I'm saying, when it comes to mindset of fighters, how we could, applying this in life, we as, I guess we can say, quote unquote, normal human beings, right? Maybe we're not fighters in the ring. No, but we're fighters in life. I want to, rest in peace to Chadwick, man. I mean, y'all heard about it already, right? I'm sure. This is tweeted, right? Maybe you guys read it, maybe you haven't, but I just want to read it here real quick, right? And it shows us how to be a fighter, how we can apply these things, mindset of fighters. We have that mindset also. I just want to read this real quick. I'm sure you guys have read it. It's in Twitter. It says, it is with immeasurable grief that we confirm the passing of Chadwick Boseman, right? Chadwick was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer in 2016, battled with it these last 4 years as it progressed to stage 5. Stage 4, if I'm mistaken. Yeah, 4. Okay, this is what it says here. A true fighter, Chadwick preserved through it all and brought you many of the films you have come to love so much, right? From Marshall to The Five Bloods, August, et cetera, the movies, right? But I wanted to point this out because he fought through cancer. And what we're talking about earlier about fighters, broken necks, car crashes, cancer, Daniel Jacobs with cancer. You know, these fighters fought through it, went back in the ring against all odds, against them having doctors tell them in their face, you know what, you're not going to fight again. You're not going to do what you love anymore, man. But these fighters kept on fighting. Chadwick kept on fighting. So we have to, ladies and gentlemen, those who are tuning in, man, we got to keep on fighting and have that fighter mentality, man. Definitely. You know, emotions, you know, get at us. You know what I'm saying? Emotions can overwhelm us, but we have to keep these things under control like fighters do. You know what I'm saying? Like fighters do in the ring, so that it won't, you know, and like what Kurtis was saying, channel the emotions if we have a lot of emotions. You know, like Mike Tyson had the emotions in a bottle. You know what I'm saying? Channel those emotions. And interestingly enough, Anthony Yard recently posted in an Instagram or in social media, whatever, right? I don't know which one, but which platform, but if I'm not mistaken, it was Anthony Yard. He said, you know, something along the lines, you know, him working out in the gym. He said that, you know, that he something along the lines of him channeling his anger in fighting, in boxing, you know. So he has the emotion of anger sometimes, you know what I mean? But he channels it in fighting, you know, channeling it the right way. You know what I'm saying? So that's amazing. That's what I admire about fighters. You know what I'm saying? I definitely admire that, man. So, Reggie Owens, real quick, with you before we get to the next point here. Do you know of emotional fighters nowadays, bro? Are there any emotional fighters out there that you see nowadays in this day and age? These fighters?
Yeah, the Charlos.
Of course, you just mentioned them, right? Yeah. Anybody else? Just pretty much, they're probably the most outs. They're probably the most like prominent ones, right?
The ones that come to mind, those are the ones that stand out. But I'm pretty sure there's other emotional fighters that are out there. Just off top, I can't call Tank Davis seemed to be in control with his emotions. I can't call him emotional. Mainly the Charles, I don't see nobody that's on that level that I can think of off the top of my head. They're the ones that stand out.
Yeah, definitely. Now, let's get on to the next point here. It's kind of similar what we were already talking about. Interestingly, Stormy B was intertwining it already. When it comes to motivating factors, like, you know, what is apparent? We'll go to Kurtis right now with this. What are some factors that mainly motivated fighters back then, Kurtis? Were they quite relevant? Was it easy to detect it in fighters? Was a motivating factor? Was there a more common motivating factor of fighters amongst a lot of fighters, or was it distinct with, or was it different with each? You know, we'll talk about personalities, right, and the mindset fighters. I thought there was music there. Each fighter has a different mindset, right? Is it the same with motivating factors also, Kurtis?
Well, you know, one of the most mainly, it was a lot of things, but money, because money allows you to live a certain way. So they wanted to get out the ghetto. You know, when the Irish and the Jews and the Italians came upon America off Ellis Island, you know, they formed street gangs. You can look at the movie called Gangs in New York that explains it, you know, and that's a great movie, by the way. And somebody was calling me, but boxing was one of the very few avenues that they can, you know, make money and get their families out the ghetto. Like Benny Leonard, great Jewish fighter, you know, great fighter. You know, he when he boxed, you know, his father was upset, and when he told his father how much he made, his father said, "When you gonna fight again?"
Wow.
You know, and that's a true story. You know, I never known a fighter who wanted to fight for free. So money was a motivation. You know, some fighters just have a penchant to want to slug. Like Sugar Ray Robinson was a boxer, but he was a slugger as well. You know, and if a fighter knew that he had talent, then he was going to box. You know, but a lot of those old school fighters, it was money because things were terrible. You know, you had the Great Depression of 1929, where your meal was a piece of bread and water. That's very true. You know, there was lines around the block, you know, for food. You know, so boxing. If you look at the movie Cinderella Man, explains what I'm talking about. You know, he used to come home, you know, just bread in a bag, and the kids used to take a piece of bread and eat it. But he turned to fighting, and with that bread was meat, steak. So, you know, money was the number one factor. You
Right.
know, people can dress it up saying, I don't care about money, but that's not true, because you negotiate as part of business. Money will allow you to live a certain way. You know, Jack Dempsey, you know, is another one. Those fighters used to be hobos, like being on the train cars and going from city to city, town to town, looking for fights. And if they were any good, Sam Langford did that. If they was any good, then they'd get a nice purse, and you can eat when you want to, and you know, live in, you know, in a palatial state. You know, look at the money that Mayweather has gotten. 7 years, 900 something million. So money to me always been a factor, especially today. Yesterday, it was money and pride and legacy and just wanting
Right.
to get in the ring. You know, John L. Sullivan, you know, the first champion, used to walk in saloons and say, I'll lick any SOB in the house. You know, that was his bravado. You know, Jack Johnson, you know, used to wear, and especially in them days as a black man, wearing tailor-made suits and listening to classical music and white women and fancy cars. You know, it allowed him to live a certain way. So I would say money. Yesteryear's fighters, it's always been money and legacy, but today's fighters, it's money.
Wow, wow, wow. Interesting stuff, man. Interesting stuff. Before we get to, okay, the next bullet points here, we're going to take a little break here, but the break of a trivia. All right. You guys ready for this? This is how we're going to do it. Okay. We're going to do a little trivia here. The link is in the description. All right. So we can keep that in order there. We're going to go into a little trivia, a little fun stuff here. You know, the people in the comments can also, you know, play along here. Definitely. All right. Trying to do something different here. So we're gonna do it. We're gonna check your boxing knowledge, man. I'm gonna be the least in this one. I'm not gonna participate because I think I'll lose in this one. I won't get the points in this one. So we're gonna do here. I'm gonna show you guys the screen, and we're gonna go like in a circular fashion as we see on the screen here with the guests. With Reggie Owens, we'll have Reggie Owens answer the first question, and then Stormy B-Man the next one, and Kurtis Anderson the next one. We'll just continue in that circular fashion. Okay, you guys ready?
Absolutely.
All right, here we go. Let me show you this here. Okay, let me just give you a moment. All right, let me just go ahead and here we go. You guys see the screen there?
Yeah, if you roll it up a little bit.
All right, here we go. Right there, right? Can you see it?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, here we go. Play quiz. Reggie Owens, you're first, bro. We got 8 minutes. And you guys see how many questions are there? Do you guys see it? We got 15. 15 questions. Okay. Yeah. We got here 15 questions, and we have 8 minutes to answer. I don't think that's a rush. I think that's more than enough time, especially with you guys. I mean, so here we go, man. Maybe the questions will be easy. Just be a little patient, right? But we'll see, right? Here we go. First one. Reggie Owens. Question number 1. Bam. What was the great Sugar Ray Robinson's real name?
Oh shit! Damn, was it Walker Smith?
Final answer? Yeah?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that.
All right, here we go. Perfect. Yes, sir. Next question. Stormy B. In 1963, at which famous venue did Britain's Henry Cooper send a young Cassius Clay Muhammad Ali sailing to the canvas?
I'm trying to think.
Yeah, go ahead. Take your time.
It would be easy to say Wembley, but as far as the venues, man, that's a tough one for me because I didn't focus on venues back then.
No problem.
Would it be? I'll just give me Wembley just for.
All right, let's go to Wembley. Let's check it out here. Boom, you got it, bro. Nice. All right, Kurtis, you're next, bro. Sheffield legend Nassim Hamed, you just mentioned him a moment ago, if I'm mistaken, was known for his cocky nature in the ring. But which fighter finally got the better of him in 2001? I think Kurtis talked about this earlier, but I don't remember.
Marcos Antonio Barrera.
Perfect. Man, you guys are good. Okay, we got Reggie, back to you. Which former super middleweight world champion announced his comeback to the sport after 4 years away in March 2017? Oh, this is a recent one.
Oh, damn. I think I seen Mikhail Kessler. That's why I'm gonna go with Kessler.
Final answer?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Kessler.
Perfect. Wow, you guys are good, man. Stormy B, we got you. Hey, here we go. Who is the first and only ever 8-division world champ?
That would be Manny Pacquiao.
Perfect. Oh, we got the chat also answering. Go ahead, man. Answer away, chat. Here we go. All right, let's get back here. We got Kurtis in 2012. Who became the first female British boxer to ever fight at the Olympic Games? Oof, I'm lost.
Answer that again. You're breaking up. I'm sorry.
Oh, my fault. In 2012, who became the first female British boxer to ever fight at the Olympic Games? Ooh, I think she fought recently.
Yeah, that's Katie Taylor, right?
No, actually, the options here are Kelly Morgan, Nicola Adams, Savannah Marshall, or Natasha Jonas.
Damn. Oh, boy. Read the names again.
Kelly Morgan, Nicola Adams, Savannah Marshall, or Natasha Jonas.
Boy, that's a good one, man. I'm not into women's boxing.
Or anybody want to help?
I heard the name Savannah Marshall. I don't know.
You got it, Kurtis? You got it?
No, that was Reggie. It was Savannah Morgan. That was Reggie. Yeah, answered it.
Savannah Marshall, right?
Yeah, I heard that name.
Yeah, that was Reggie. Yeah, that's a Reggie.
Oh, Reggie. Yeah. You guys want to go for that one? Let's check it out. Here we go. Oh, it was Natasha Jonas. Natasha Jonas.
Oh.
No problem. No problem. Let's go back to Kurtis real quick because Reggie answered that one. Okay, Kurtis, Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez has won a world title in how many weight divisions? 2, 4, 5, or 3?
4.
Man, right on the money, man. Let's go to Stormy now. Stormy, which boxer was the undisputed middleweight world champion from 1980 to 1987? Do you see the options there?
That would be Marvin Hagler.
Bam! Right on the money, bro. Kurtis, back to you, Kurtis. Which boxer? Kurtis, do you see the screen? Do you see the options there?
Yeah.
You there, Kurtis? Mm-hmm. Okay. So which boxer had the nickname the Brockton Blockbuster? You see the options, the 4 options?
Yes, Rocky Marciano.
Bam! Man, you guys are good. We got Reggie. Here we go. Who defeated Eusebio Pedroza at Loftus Road to win his first world title back in 1985? Whoa.
I need a lifeline on that one.
On these.
Oh, I give you the one.
Okay,
Barry
lifeline.
McGuigan.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, all right. All right. Perfect, man. Perfect. All right. Let's go back to Stormy. We got you, Stormy. Who did the legendary Muhammad Ali lose to in his last ever fight in 1981?
Trevor Burbick.
This is easy for Stormy. All
Trevor
right, man.
Burbick.
Curtis, back to you. Yeah, you got it. Definitely. Curtis, in what year did the first ever professional women's boxing match take place? Ooh.
Damn. Women's boxing.
These questions are for Curtis, the woman one. Wow. The women's
Yeah, I see. I would say I'm gonna take a guess. The first women's boxing. I'm gonna say 95.
95. Black Star in the building. What's up, Black Star? Thanks so much for tuning in. We're just doing a little quick trivia. 1995. Oh, it was 1998. It's all good. It's all good. Go back to Reggie. Reggie, ready? It's all good. Reggie, Muhammad Ali was stripped of his world titles for refusal to serve in which war? Ooh.
Vietnam.
No problem with Reggie on that one. Bam. Nice. Back to Stormy. Which bout won the Ring Magazine's Fight of the Year back in 2002?
2002. That would probably be Mickey Ward versus Arturo Gatti.
Let's check. Bam. Wow. Wow, Stormy. Okay, Kurtis. We got you, Kurtis. Which fighter holds the record for most consecutive title defenses in the middleweight division with 20? Oh, my gosh. 20. Wow.
I can't hear you breaking up. What you say now?
Oh, I'm sorry. Which fighter holds the record for most consecutive title defenses in the middleweight division with 20?
I can't hear you.
Oh, my fault. My fault. Can you hear me? Check. 1, 2.
Nah, this is my phone, man. My gigabytes.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. By the time, it's almost up. 10 seconds. Reggie or Stormy, you got it?
Hopkins.
Bam. Bam. Okay. We got yeah, perfect. Bernard Hopkins. You got it, man. All right. Time is up, man. We didn't get to the 15, as a matter of fact, man. We didn't get to the 15 on this one. Man, you guys got most of them right, man. Definitely. Cool stuff, man. It looks like it paused here because the timer went out, so it's all good. Let me get out of here. So cool, man. Let me just stop sharing that screen there. Cool. You guys did pretty good, man. You guys did excellent in that trivia. And the next one, we're going to have another trivia, man. The next series, the next part, right? We're going to continue with that trivia. A little break, a little fun there. We had here the people in the chat also, joining in on the trivia. Thank you guys so much, man. Hey, Black Star's in the building also in the process of this trivia we had. Black Star's in the building. Thanks so much, man. Black Star Sports TV. Thank you for joining. Underrated Darkness. Salute, bro. Thank you so much for tuning in, man. You guys are family. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, man. Let me go back to the chat real quick before we get to the next points of this show today. I want to get back something that do you guys remember this? Bruce Goes mentioned this here. He said there's a good movie. Have you guys seen this about the Vinnie Paz story called Bleed for This? I'm from Rhode Island, and the movie is close to reality. Has anybody seen that one?
Yeah, I've seen it.
What is it about? Curtis, can you expound a little bit on that one? I haven't seen it.
It's a biopic about Vinnie Pazienza boxing career and his injury in the car accident.
Okay. So, interesting what we're talking about. Yeah, and that was about the last bullet points we're talking about, the mindset, how fighters came back from a car accidents and things of that nature, man. And I'm really anticipating to see, right? And I'm sure we all are, to see how Spence is going to come back, man. See if how that, crash affected him. Man, that's in the suspenseful weight, man. So we're going to see how that goes down against Danny Garcia, definitely. And let's get to the next bullet points here we got, all right? We're going to talk about, the differences of fighters' physical build. Okay, now this is a interesting transition. So what are the differences of fighters' physical build then and now? So let's go with Stormy, bro. Can you elaborate, Stormy, on how as far as the physical conditioning of fighters were back in the day?
Well, when you say back in the day, what time frame are you putting on?
I would say before the 80s, or maybe around the 80s even.
Well, you have to go back to the understanding of what happened in our society. People were eating differently, a lot less processed foods, a lot less fast food restaurants and things like that. So the American person, I've said this too in personal conversation.
Right.
If you go back and watch a movie that may be dated, you can say go back before 82 and going back through the 70s, the 60s, or whatever, and you look at a film, look at the people who are in the background. mostly everybody is slender and, you know, of medium build or whatever. Then when you go past the late 80s and early 90s and you look at films in the background, you see the effect of weight on people, even the extras in the backdrops or whatever, starting to become bigger, more people that look more like out of shape and things like that. And I believe that that was attributed to what was happening in our country, to a greater degree of the eating habits. You could just tell that people were a little bit different back then, and as far as being more health conscious and just eating healthier overall, not dining out as much, but eating at home, not eating as much proteins as people. Because I remember growing up that we would have like beans and rice and, you know, stuff like that, and then like a couple of times a week you might have chicken or, you know, meatloaf or something like that, but it's like not every day. It's like now people are eating like meats every day for dinner and stuff like that. And guess what that does over a period of time? It will help change the shape of your body and also the health of your body, higher cholesterol levels and things like that. So I would say that the physical conditioning of the fighters and the appearance was a lot better if you go back from the mid to early 80s going back. And after that, you see more guys being a little more pudgy, a little more not as tight. And it did make a difference in the overall shape of the fighters. And also fighters were prone to only stay no more than 12 or 13 pounds away from their fighting weights. Guys today are fighting at artificial weights. Look at David Benavidez coming down from 200 plus pounds to fight at 168. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. You know what I mean? And so when you're seeing that and you're seeing these guys, a lot of them in the sport are walking around 40 pounds over the weight where they fight at, if not more. That's absolutely ridiculous. The professional guys would stay always within 12 to 14 pounds of their fighting weights and wouldn't let themselves become so undisciplined, because other than that, your training for a match becomes a fat camp. And you spend most of your time trying to get the weight off and everything instead of honing your game plan and everything and your technique of what you need to do against the opponent that you're facing. So that's what I have to offer on that.
Awesome. Kurtis, what can you add before we get to Reggie on that? You know, what more can you add possibly concerning the conditioning of fighters back in the day?
Well, the food they ate were more natural. It was less preservatives than today. Most of the fighters from America was from the South, and their grandparents and their parents was from the South. So, you know, they ate better, you know, out the ground. They had gardens. I remember those days when some people didn't even go food shopping. They only ate from their gardens. The food was fresher, you know, more natural. And it was a difference. They were stronger, yesteryear's fighters, man, like Jake LaMotta, and, you know, but sometimes he got out of shape, you know, but when he was in shape, he was like really strong. You know, if you look at those old fights in the 40s and 50s, they fought every minute, every second, every round, you know, and, you know, today's fighters, they fight maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes at the most, but it's the food that they ate, you know, was a big advantage that they had. You know, people can say, well, today's athletes are bigger and stronger, but I don't think they're stronger. I think yesteryear's athletes were stronger, the fighters, that is, because they could fight in every single round, every second. And, you know, they will wear the fighters today, they will wear them down, you know, because they can do that, you know, especially going back further, they fought 20 rounds, 40 rounds. There was one fight in 1893 that they fought 110 rounds. So, you know,
Oh, wait, hold on, Kurtis. I don't mean to interrupt you, bro. I remember
sure.
we talked about this, the number of rounds, but 110 rounds?
Yeah, that's true. 7 hours and 19 minutes.
Oh my word.
And it was 3-minute rounds. So those guys, you know, the food was better and they were in shape. The regiments, it was hard knock life that they lived. You know, they was better men. They had stronger characters, and that has a lot to do with it as well. But the food they ate, you know, than today was a lot better.
Reggie, I think you're acquainted with this, and Stormy also, everybody, a lot of people are. But I want to get to you with this question: that do you think, Reggie, you know, after hearing this, because it makes me reflect, it makes me think, and this is actually one of the bullet points. That's why I had this in the bullet points, that, you know, as far as like nutritional programs, you know, that fighters have nowadays. Well, quick question, Stormy, real quick before we get to this with Reggie. Stormy, did fighters, you know, around the 80s, maybe a little bit before, or the times that Kurtis was talking about where there were, you know, food farms and things of that nature, were there chefs for fighters back in the day? Yeah, Stormy?
What was the question? I thought
Oh,
you
I'm
were
sorry.
asking. I
No,
thought you were
I
asking
was.
Reggie.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to go to Reggie, but before to go to Reggie, I just came to mind. Were there chefs for like specific chefs for fighters back in the day, for fighters back then?
I believe some fighters had people preparing them, preparing their meals and everything. Not necessarily dedicated chefs all the time, but some
Right.
did. But yeah, there's always been people who were dedicated to providing the meals in a camp and stuff like that. I mean, Ali at his Deer Lake training camp, which was one of the first real official American camps where he set it all up for his sparring partners and everybody to come in there with him, whole entourage and everything. They had chefs and everything. So that kind of has always been a part of it. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. So, Reggie, do you think that these nutritional, for example, SNAC, right? We all know SNAC. I mean, there are several fighters in SNAC. If I'm not mistaken, you know, those who promote it, you know, when you go to these videos on YouTube or whatever, there are like little commercials before it, you know, hey, try SNAC. And, you know, Mikey Garcia's in SNAC, Devin Haney, if I'm not mistaken. Demetrius Andrade, I think even Caleb Plant. I think there are several fighters who have been in SNAC, in the SNAC program, or who are in a SNAC program right now. Do those types of programs and nutritional, you know, based supplementary programs really help fighters nowadays, Reggie?
I mean, they seem to. These fighters are gaining all type of edges. It ain't natural, but yeah, it's giving them a benefit. It's giving them unfair benefits. I mean, the stuff being produced scientifically is making cats stronger. It's making them faster. You see what happens when this stuff is in their bodies. I mean, look at the times if people are doing it in track and field, the times that are being put up by people. Look what people are lifting when they're using this stuff. So there's a benefit to it, and that's why there's a need for a counter to that, to figuring out who's taking what, because this stuff is making people into superhumans. And some people who don't have the work ethic, they get themselves back into shape by taking these quick shortcuts based on what's being produced in the lab by scientists. They shortcut it, and that's the sad side when it comes to science. Even when it comes to the nutritional factors of food, they've even added science into food to where fruits and vegetables don't grow in their natural order. These guys are modifying the hell out of everything, modifying human beings as well. But yeah, that's all I got on that.
Doesn't Victor Conte have some type sketchy background? If I'm not mistaken, he was caught like doing some kind. Yeah, right.
Yeah, he was in that Balco scandal, I believe, with the baseball stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Alex Rodriguez and baseball players used to mess with him, man, and you know, he was shady.
Wow, and so Reggie, what you're talking about right now, so like you're saying that it gives them an unnatural edge to certain fighters. maybe it's not the best way to go about it, right? Do you think so, Reggie? Or is that an okay way for fighters to use those kinds of supplements to, for fights?
I mean, man, when I used to lift weights, man, I was lifting somewhere like up to like 400 pounds and stuff off of creatine and shit like that. Stuff you can just go buy at buying it like out the regular grocery store. Right. So if they got stuff that makes you give you better benefits than some over-the-counter stuff, I mean, it ain't no telling what the hell this stuff can do to you. I mean, if there's rules and other stuff to it where they limit what can be put into a person's body, then no, it shouldn't. But it's here now. It's almost like with computer technology. It's here. It ain't going nowhere. And with this stuff out here, the most they can do is try to eliminate certain chemicals that are being put into people's bodies. But yeah, this stuff is crazy, man. And I always speak on that from my personal experience back when I used to lift weights. Naturally, I'm a skinny person. But when I started lifting weights, and then later down the line, I started taking like using the creatine and stuff, because I was like a gym nut. And then my lifts were going, it was like crazy what the hell I used to lift, and off of using that stuff. Like, it was crazy.
Wow. Stormy, I want to get to this. What gets you with this? Like, do you think, Stormy B, like fighters nowadays can bring, as far as conditioning and for a fight, can bring the traditional ways of intake, nutrition intake in their bodies for conditioning and translate to nowadays in training and preparing for a fight? Or do they need like supplements like that SNAC provides and things of that nature?
Of course they can. They can bring traditional methods. The traditional methods are tried and true. All this other stuff is a quick way of trying to get yourself faster recovery and things like that. But you have to remember, the most important things you're supposed to do is eat right, exercise, get your rest, don't burn the candles at both ends. Make sure that you get your miles in when you're running and things like that, and everything will be just fine. It's like, but remember, the stuff that they take, supplements, what is the definition of supplement?
Right.
That's the question I'm posing to you.
I think it's like to add something, right? Yeah.
Is to actually place or replace or supplant what's not necessary or development. So if you're doing the things that you should be doing, you should be just fine. You understand? And remember, when the supplements are not there or whatever, what does that do to the psyche?
Right.
Because you were conditioned to think that this is going to help you to begin with. You needed something that wasn't there to add to make you feel like you're going to be progressing. Now, you remove that. It's just like when the teacher used to tell you in school, go home and study. Don't come to the class tomorrow and ask your classmates for their notes and stuff like that. You would have been just fine. And this is why, again, when you look at what's happening in our society today, everybody is looking for a quick fix, a remedy, or some type of method to make it easier for them. Fast food. This is what we live in now. And people think that that's making it better for them. I remember using fast food as an example. I'd gone to one of the local fast food joints here where I live, and I went inside. The drive-through line was like around till you pull into the place, right? So the drive-through line was very long. Went inside. There's no one inside, not even sitting down eating, right?
Yeah.
And I stood at the counter for almost 4 minutes, and no one had bothered to come and take my order. But they're serving people in the drive-through. Now, mind you, I'm standing in front of them. Nobody came to check on me and say, how may I help you? How may I take your order or anything? But they are serving people through the drive-through. Cars that are in a line that ain't nobody going nowhere because they're in a line, bumper to bumper. I walked out of the joint. I looked around and I said, these people in here are crazy. You got a guy that's standing right in front of you that can hand you the cash for what he's ordering and everything right away, straight away, and you're focused on everybody that's in the drive-thru. It was totally absurd to me. And I walked out. You know, it's just, but that's an example of where we are today, because everyone is looking for that fix. They're looking for that way of getting. There's nothing wrong with rolling your sleeves up and getting it done. And guess what? When you do it that way, you feel confident. You feel emboldened in the fact that you put the work in. And that translates into confidence. Confidence translates into performance. Performance translates into results.
Wow, amazing stuff, man. Amazing stuff. Kurtis, switching to you concerning this, like, do you know of right now, and I think one of them that you're going to say is probably Lomachenko, like of having the old school type of training. Do you think there are more fighters out there right now like that? And with the intake they have and things like that, conditioning?
Well, the Charlos are very well conditioned athletes. But I think it's more with their genetics than anything. Certain fighters have to work harder than other fighters because those fighters that have genetics, they don't have to. The Charlos like to party and stuff, and they have what's this called? Walking with the Lines is like a 24/7 when they give you the inside their lives. You know, the fancy cars and the big homes.
Yeah.
But they're always in shape. And I'm gonna tell you why. They throw big shots from first to 12, from round 1 to round 12. When you look at those Harrison fights, both of them, Jamel's in tremendous shape. You can see, the definition, and those type of muscles is because of conditioning. He probably do a lot of push-ups and stuff like that. Other fighters have to work hard at it. There's no room for error. And with Lomachenko, his workout, he walks on his hands. I've never seen a fighter that does weird things. It's kamikaze-like, is off-brand, but it works for him with his talents and his workout. Like I even said, the way he dressed, he has a soul as an old school fighter, and that's why he's so effective. Teofimo is very athletic, very strong. He's big. I don't think he's after Lomachenko. He probably move up. Because he's big, and the weight can become a factor. You have to channel your weight by how you live and what you eat. When you look at that, then you're going to be successful. Look at Bernard Hopkins. He stayed at middleweight, 32-inch waist, or Marvin Hagler. He stayed at one weight his whole life, from 1973 to 1987. How you take care of yourself, you're supposed to maximize your ability and all your fights to win. And that's one way you do it, by living clean and eating right, and working out and staying in the gym. That's what made Floyd Mayweather great. He was always in shape. Young Mike Tyson was always in shape. I used to listen to an old boxing show, Art Rush Jr., who knew more about boxing than anything. That's who I looked up to. And a guy called and said, "Why Mike never breathes heavy in between rounds?" And Art Rush Jr. said, "Because it's called conditioning." And Nassim Richardson, when he was fighting Mosley Mayweather, said this kid's gift is his conditioning. Because you see many fighters get tired, especially after a grueling fight, and it becomes psychological. You don't think as well, fatigue that made cowards out of men. But what you eat, put in your body, and how you live, and you have to dedicate yourself to the sport of boxing. You know, I mean, it's not easy. You know, there's very few fighters that can party. Sugar Ray Robinson used to party a lot. He had his own nightclub. But when it was time to fight, he was in shape mentally and physically.
When interesting, like, okay, he's talking about like you know, the Charlos having that conditioning and it shows in their physique, you know, the muscles really defined. Reggie, I want to get to you with this. This I just came to my mind right now. You know, while you guys speak, while you guys are talking, I have visual, you know, I just have visual mental pictures of things that pop up, boom, boom, boom. And I try to correlate that with what you guys are saying. So Reggie, like, how can you differentiate? Like, and also Kurtis talked about Mike Tyson, that he wasn't really breathing in between rounds, you know, just definitely in shape. Charlo's amazingly in shape. You know, Teofimo, amazingly in shape. Lomachenko, et cetera, et cetera. These guys, you know, they go the distance. And with a lot of these guys and those guys back in the day, you know, and the fighters back in the day, you know, you don't really commonly see them in between rounds breathing hard. Obviously, you do when they're all at it, you know, going intense fights and stuff like that. But Reggie, like this came to mind right now. You know, Anthony Yard, when he fought, who was it? What's his name, man? Kovalev. Yeah, sorry, Kovalev. Sometimes the names don't come to mind. So when Anthony Yard fought Kovalev, and I like Anthony Yard, I think he still has you know, he can come back and do an amazing, have an amazing career, definitely. Anthony Yard, we see he is really, really muscular. Okay. And when you correlate, when you kind of like compare that with Mike Tyson, really muscular also. Charlo's really muscular also. But we saw Anthony Yard, he tired out. He definitely tired out. Do you think, Reggie Owens, that had to do with like having too much muscle mass? Can that be a factor, a jeopardizing factor for a fighter?
Oh, hell yeah. Especially when you ain't got the cardio conditioning. And especially if you're in there with someone who's going to push you. Like I said, looking physically strong and having big muscles doesn't mean you're going to win a fight. Doesn't mean you're going to run through somebody. And when somebody pushes you, those muscles need oxygen. And when you're pushing deeper and deeper into a fight and you're not pumping oxygen into them, you're starving them, you're going to begin to break. And that can become a problem. But even cats who are built like that, is a lot of times those people aren't putting in the conditioning. They're not putting the miles. They ain't doing road work, things like that. They're lifting weights, getting their cardio by just sitting inside the ring, sparring or whatnot. But you have to hit that road. And I think that's his issue. That was his issue. But then also Yard's issue is he's not sharpening his tools, because now he's going into these way lesser damn fighters, whether rather than keeping himself up to where he can sharpen his craft. So I think it's going to happen, that dude. But having muscles like that with no real cardio conditioning will affect you. And I think he's more into his physical look than the reality of where he needs to be as a fighter. In case he has to go deep into fights, he was knocking people out very quick. So he never got to being pushed in the way he was pushed, and it showed in that Kovalev fight.
Right. So not necessarily, and these are people who, you know, if anybody's tuning in right now who probably doesn't know much about the sport of boxing, right? Everyone's welcome, and we're here to learn. Muscles don't win fights, definitely not. And many times we get the misinterpretation of seeing a big muscular fighter, you know what I'm saying? Quick example, this is UFC though. UFC, who was it, man? Oh my gosh, the names don't come to mind. Kane knocked out Brock Lesnar. I mean, and you would think, oh, you know, Brock Lesnar, a big muscular super giant guy. Kane took him out. So, I mean, you know, same concept, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes we think and get the misconception of, you know, seeing a big stocky or whatever, right? A muscular guy, muscles to the gills, that he's going to win. That's not the factor there. Definitely not. Stormy, I have a question for you, Stormy. Like, and this kind of relates. Correct me if I'm wrong, or I don't know. That's why I want to ask you. You know, fighters from back in the 80s, 70s, you know, maybe even the early 90s. Is it just me, or, you know, and I think this may have to connect. This connects to conditioning. Why did it look like fighters were sweating before round one? Does that have to do with conditioning?
No, it doesn't have It doesn't have to do with conditioning. It has to do with the traditional and correct way of warming up properly before a
Yeah.
fight. When you're warming up, you get your body just at that point of perspiration. So when you walk to your bed, look ready to go. You don't want to be caught clean and cold with a punch in the first round where you can't respond to it properly or shake it off or whatever, and you end up getting knocked out in the first round. Fighters who knew how to definitely warm themselves up, shadow boxing in the gym, as well as, you know, getting their ritualistic workout exercises, they knew within a certain amount of minutes of doing certain things, they get warmed up. That's where you transfer your training in the gym to actual fight night activity. And you spend so much time limbering up, stretching a little bit, and then you start to warm up, and you warm up with your shadow boxing and things like that. And usually fighters who, and when they've trained to their peak in a camp, about to face, you know, a fighter on fight night, there's a certain amount of time that they have to do that. So if you knew that you were going to enter the ring at 9:20, then you may have wanted to start getting up there at a quarter to a quarter to 9, start loosening up and stuff like that, and then about, you know, 5 to 9 or whatever, you start doing your shadow boxing and everything, where you, so when they robe you up, you don't want to, you know, total you don't want a total cool down, but when you're walking to the ring also, you understand that whole process, depending on how long the ring walk is, what distance you may have to go, all of that stuff should be factored in what you're doing. But getting ready and having a frothing sweat going when you're in the ring, when they pull your robe off, you may have dried off a little bit because you had your robe and your towel on. But when you finish that first round, your body should be soaking wet, you know, by the time you finish that first round, because your body was warmed up and primed. That's right. How the old trainers and fighters used to, you know, really get themselves prepared. If you remember the young Mike Tyson, when he would come to the ring either with no robe on, no towel on, or the towel across his shoulders, when they took it off of him in the ring, he was ready. He was sweating. He was ready to go, right, like he had boxed 3 rounds already. See, that makes a difference, you know. And I'll tell you something, hitting those pads don't warm you up. It really don't.
Right.
But some people think that that's the thing to do and all of that. But there are other things that you can do to warm up in the locker room, gym room, wherever you are at your venue. But that's what the guys used to do. And that's one of the reasons why they could come out and be ready to go from the first bell. But it is something that you see not a lot of today. A lot of guys come to the ring cold, and it amazes me how many of them come to the ring cold. It amazes. Even championship fighters are coming to the ring cold nowadays. And I don't know, maybe Kurt might want to say something about that as well, because it is something that I noticed a while ago. I'm like, man, none of these guys are coming in warmed up. But yeah, that's what I have to offer on it.
Yeah, and I was exactly just going to jump to Kurt about that and continue that point, because I pondered this some time ago, and I was like, I got to talk about this. Is it conditioning? But no, I mean, Stormy just cleared it up perfectly. It's the warm up process. You know, because I pondered it for a while. This was months, maybe, I don't know how long ago, maybe a year ago. I was thinking, why is it, you know, that, you know, Reggie Owens is also putting those classic fights on from back in the day. I would see constantly how fighters would be sweating in the ring before, you know, when they're facing off, and the referee, you know, is saying, okay, low blow here, no, you know, obey my commands at all time, protect yourselves at all time. They're sweating, and they're sweating a lot. But now when you see the modern fighters, a lot of times, man, they're facing off, and, you know, the referee is blabbing away, saying this and that, and there's just not a drop of sweat. And I'm like, what I got to talk about, I was thinking I got to wait for the right time to try to figure this out. And, Stormy B just clarified it. And Kurtis, do you think, and then you can go ahead and put your input on this, like, as far as, how fighters used to properly warm up before fights. And do you think that, I want to add a question on this, do you think that that's one of the reasons to why those classic fights were so action-packed right from round one? For example, I just saw, there's so many fights, obviously, you guys know a lot about this, that I just saw Roberto Duran versus Davey Moore. My gosh. First round, action all the way. First round, the crowd was just standing up almost, man, screaming. It was just amazing. From the first round, you got action. You see fights nowadays, just like what Stormy's saying. We see sometimes, and not all the time, but like we see more commonly, round one nowadays, round two, round three, it's like they're barely warming up. And you just don't see the action that you have seen before. As far as the first rounds, you know what I'm saying, Kurtis? So that's my question. Like, do you think the proper warming up has to do with more action-packed beginnings in a fight?
Absolutely. It's the early bird that gets the worm, meaning that you're supposed to be dripping with sweat when you enter the ring, shadow box. I don't care how many rounds you have to go, excuse me, to warm up. There seems to be a disconnect with old school boxing and new school boxing. I noticed that from the trainers to the pre-fight preparation, which is very important,
right,
to working out, getting yourself ready, being in shape, doing the things you need to do to win. There's been a disconnect. And that's because the new fighters doesn't respect the history of the sport. If I was a new school fighter, I would study old school fighters. Ryan Garcia does Canelo as well, because where Canelo works out at, he has a big mural of Muhammad Ali. And when King Garcia hit Dunno with that left hook, he said, that was my Sugar Ray Robinson left hook.
Yeah.
I'm bringing that up because it's very important, to adapt those old school ways. Lomachenko aggressively was after Tank because he knew Tank would not be prepared for a high-profile fight. That's why he went after Tank. He was counting on him not being ready before the fight and during the fight. He saw a weakness. You're supposed to prepare yourself. You have to take every precautionary measure to prepare yourself for a war. Being in shape physically, no distractions. Don't bring the whole hood, like Tank does, into your locker room. You can barely walk. These are the things that's very important. When you look at Lomachenko, it's just him and his father. Maybe somebody else. His locker room's empty. Don't bring your wife to the fight and hug on her like a big baby and lean on her shoulder like Wilder did. Don't do that. Your wife's supposed to be in the arena if she wants to watch, or at home, or up in the hotel. You're supposed to map out your game plan. Map out your game plan, and then warm up, and then take your fight in the ring. But a lot of new school fighters, they don't do that. They just think they can come and show up and get a victory. It doesn't work like that. Like Tank, he better come to fight, because Leo gonna come to fight. He better come to fight. He better be in shape, because if he fought like he did against Gamboa, he's gonna lose. So you have to be in shape. When you look at all the great fighters in history, they was in shape. Their mind, body, and soul. They were in shape, and they gave their chance the best. They gave themselves the best chance to win. That's why Mayweather was not only great in fights, but like Leonard and Ali, those three guys was great in big fights. So the bigger the fight, the bigger the name, the bigger the challenge. And they had some of their best moments.
Yeah, you there, bro?
Yeah, y'all still there?
I think it cut off a little bit. You there, Kurtis?
I'm here. I think that Kurt's having trouble. You know, he has, after a certain period of time on StreamYard, his phone it uses up his energy on his phone.
That's exactly what happens to me. I think Stormy B, you were on one of my lives when I was driving, and then the phone overheated. Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, StreamYard does that to people's phones. I don't know why, but there've been a few people that discovered that that's what it is.
Okay. I thought it was just me. Okay. Oh, all right. Stormy, real quick, and then we're gonna get to Reggie. All right, Stormy, real quick. And that this was in my mind also. Sometime, you know, I want to kind of get a resolution here. Like, so do you think generally, not necessarily with warm ups, so just generally speaking, like you know, training, do the mitt work, that fast, flashy mitt work, is that helpful for fighters? Does it really help them, like with reflexes and things like that?
With all due respect, hell no. Hell no.
Wow.
Bruce Lee used the phrase in that movie Enter the Dragon when O'Hara threw that board up in the air and broke it, and he looked at him and he said, "Boards don't hit back." Yeah, it's the same principle with those pads, man. I kind of wish that aspect of boxing never, because it was a training exercise,
right,
but it actually displaced real boxing technique in the gym, teaching of boxing technique in the gym, because Eddie Futch and Emmanuel Stewart, they didn't have to teach you good boxing with holding pads up, focus mitts as they call them, for you to hit. Okay, but they can teach you subtleties by getting in the ring with you, showing you your foot position, showing you the way to hold your guard up and how to keep that guard set and placed. And when you move your body, when you throw shots, there's a certain way that your feet are supposed to turn when you punch, and there's a certain way that your waist and hip is supposed to go into what you're doing. And when you're not taught the subtleties of that, hitting those pads, remember, it's just somebody holding their hands up and you hit here, you hit here, you hit here. It's like that's an exercise, but you're not learning technique and you're not learning how to turn and get something into the shots. Okay, because as I was talking to Reggie just yesterday and last night about the Costa Tszyu Jeff Horn fight, okay, Tim Tszyu, excuse me. Tim was punching like his dad. He was throwing short shots, but with a lot of power and strength on them, and a turning of his wrist as he lets the shots go to the target. And what happens is that you feel the power and you feel the torque behind the punches much more damagingly than you do from guys hitting those focus mitts and pads. So there's an education that's supposed to take place that has been displaced by all these guys getting up there in the ring with these guys slapping the mitts. I really hate that. When I used to work the focus mitts with guys, I would put them through drills that would make them tired, and I would be worn out and tired because it'd been like we were fighting in there.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? The guys that you see, I don't care whose camp you see it. When you see somebody holding the focus mitts, they're not doing it the right way. Because if they were doing it the correct way, then the person holding those mitts and everything, they'd be almost as wore out as the guy who they're training.
Right.
You're taking blunt force through all of this. Okay. And I've worked the mitts with pros and amateurs. And I'm gonna tell you something. You feel it when you get home. And I wasn't feeling it from holding my hands up and hitting slap. No. I was getting in there. I was moving into the shots and pushing back and putting pressure on the guys and making them have to move their feet and turn into their shots where they had to get proper leverage and torque and everything, which made a difference. It was like you're actually fighting somebody off of you. You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
So when I say what I say, it's not like, oh, that's Stormy just talking crap. No, I was in there doing it. And I'll tell you something. I had guys begging me, can you work the mitts with me today?
Wow, that's awesome, man.
They knew. It was like, just did 8 rounds. What? I'm in here. I'm tired. I'm wore out from this. That was when I tell you, I had old trainers, guys who have been in the sport for over 45 years, 50 years, telling me, man, you're working these guys. You're doing it the right way. And I was in my 20s when I was doing that. You see what I'm saying? It's like I was doing it the correct way, man. And I was in pretty good shape because I'm in there doing what they're doing. And you have to, because if you're not, then you know, it's a moot point. But that's what that is. And that's what you get out of that when you are doing it the correct way. But I would prefer not have them do that using the mitts. I would prefer to have them spar, okay, and no punches to the head.
Right.
Punches to the shoulders, the arms, the body, you know, and guys, that means you got to protect yourself. Less punches to the head. Because remember, I've always said, you take punches to the head in the gym, even if you got headgear on, that's still trauma to the head. So if you've been 8 to 10 weeks in a camp and you sparring maybe 8 of those weeks in the camp, you're taking and they say, oh, he had too many blows to the head, he's slurring his speech and stuff like that. No, that came from him. She was taken in the gym as well. Because remember, you was doing that 5 days a week. You were in a bad, tough fight with an opponent. That's one night. No, you didn't suffer that damage from that fight. You suffered that damage from that camp. You know, and that's the difference when people don't know what they're looking at. You know, Riddick Bowe came out of the Galata fight looking worse for wear and talking worse for wear. He was actually slurring his words after the fight, when before the fight he was not. But I said the fight with Galata just finished off whatever he went through with in the camp, because he went through a quick weight loss situation because he wanted to come in around that same weight he wore for the first time he fought Evander Holyfield, 235. He came in again with that against Galata, but Galata is a much bigger, stronger man than Evander Holyfield and hit maybe a little bit harder as well. So it's like, and Galata had good boxing skills and abilities. So what you had to look at is what the hell was happening to Bowe during his training camp? How many shots was he taking in the gym? This is why I say a trainer should know what to tell a guy. You're not punching to the head. Or if a guy got shook up a couple of days ago, you may give him a few days off from sparring, not put him back in there the next day to spar again. You know, or you, like I said, you tell them no punches to the head, everything below the shoulders. But again, you talk about these guys today they think they know what they're doing. Nah, man. It's piss poor today. Piss poor.
Wow, man. Wow. Yeah. Nowadays we see sparring. They go at it at the head, man. Like they're actually fighting. Wow, man. Wow. Reggie, before we go,
no purpose, by the way.
Go ahead.
If you're gonna have a fight in the gym, what's the use in fighting on fight night?
Exactly.
You ain't getting paid for it in the gym either. You understand? I know the Mayweather camp, they had that thing where they get in guys in the doghouse or whatever they call it, and they get the fighting and stuff in there. You getting battered and beaten and busted up in there, and what? Even somebody bet some money on it, and they take the money and put it in the guy's pocket. That's no more than anything but a glorified tough man contest.
Pretty much.
You save that whooping on somebody for the night that you're getting paid to do so. Because I'll tell you something. We ain't gotta, be in the doghouse or whatever. You can catch somebody in the alley and get the same results.
Pretty much, man.
Real talk.
Yeah.
And still go to jail behind it. So there you go.
Yeah, man. Amazing answers, man. I love it. Reggie, before we get to the end of this, man, who do you got? Because I was put in the comments there. We didn't get to the comments because of time, man. I mean, we were just, brothers were just cooking today, man. Love it. Reggie, who do you got? And actually, Stormy B was talking about this in the show too. Ramirez and Postal tonight.
Oh, I got Ramirez. I got Ramirez easy. I don't know what Postal gonna bring. Don't want to count Postal out. He is a former champ. But I got Ramirez, man. I think Ramirez's determination may be way greater than Postal. So I'm gonna go with the guy who seems to be more determined and can fight, and is super disciplined. Postal is as well, but I'm gonna go with Ramirez.
And you're gonna call the Dubois fight. Do you think Dubois is promising in the heavyweight division?
I'm hoping so. I hope he can keep focus. And here, I think and I'm not going to count the guy in here. He's in here with today, but I think they're going in here to bring this guy into the slaughter. This guy comes in at 215. Dubois is probably going to be about 250, 260. So maybe this guy being much smaller, he moves around, stay out the way of Dubois. But if he catches Dubois with something lucky, that can set him way back. So that's the reason why I'm watching this fight to observe what happens, see if Dubois gets through this one so he can get that Joe Joyce fight. But the thing that was odd to me, they already got the damn thing drawn up for the Dubois versus the banner's kind of already drawn up. Yeah, for both of those fighters. So they just overlooking this guy they got Dubois in here with tonight. So I want to see if this guy going to come in here to possibly railroad everything they got set up, or if he going to come in here and fold, which won't be a good thing for Dubois. But I want to see what happens in that one.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Stormy? You got Ramirez or Postal for tonight?
I have Ramirez, but I think it's going to be a quality fight because they're basically similar type guys. Not that their styles are the same, because Postal's training and education in the sport of boxing came from Europe. You know, that style there, I call it a pro-am style. It's where they take the best aspects of the amateurs, which is hand speed, hit the target, you know, get your hands back really quick and everything. And it's a straight up style where they stand straight up, not a lot of bobbing, weaving, or anything like that, mixed in with the pros you're trying to hit with power. So it's kind of like a Joe Calzaghe. I use that as an example as well. But what I really like about Ramirez is that Ramirez is one of the few Mexican fighters that has been able to put athleticism behind what he does and how he positions himself to get that left hook in there, that left hook to the liver or that left hook to the jaw. He's very quick. He has fast hands, and he is athletic enough to move in and move out off rhythm as well as on rhythm. So you don't know sometimes when he's coming, or you don't know when he's going to get off. And I love that about fighters that can do that. Miguel Cotto was kind of good at that as well. He'd come at you, he'd be feigning and fading, and this, you know, he's hitting you with a double or triple jab that you weren't ready for, because he could throw it off speed and off rhythm. That's very good when a fighter is able to do those things. And Ramirez is definitely capable of that. Plus, as I spoke about it last night, he's the type of fighter that he always wants to get the last shot in. It's like, even if the bell is ringing, he might hit you after the bell. It's not that he's being a dirty fighter. It's that he's being intense. He wants it. You know, he's coming for you, and the bell just happened to get in his way. You understand? I love that. And the other thing that I love about Ramirez is that he seems to have something that he's fighting for, whether it's respect, whether it's dominance over the opponent or whatever, but it seems to be reflective in all of his performances, especially over his last 4 or 5 fights. What he did to Maurice Hooker was great. What he did to Imam was great. I mean, I'm seeing something there with him. And like last night on the show, I credited Robert Garcia for how he's brought him along. He's brought him along very well. He's well schooled. He's coached up. And I like what I see in Ramirez. I really do. And I said last night, I said that he's almost as good, if not better, at that left hook to the body than Chavez was. And Chavez had a mean left hook to the body, a mean left hook to the body. So, yeah, I favor him, but I expect it to be competitive because they are both aggressors. And it's about what's inside of the guy that's going to decide this fight. Who wants it most? And that's the kind of fight you want to see, because for as long as it lasts, you know, it's going to be nip and tuck, give and take. And I just think that Ramirez will prevail, middle to late rounds, but I call it.
Man, these are the types of fights that we want to see, man. And definitely, you know, hats off to both fighters. Definitely, it's going to be great fight. Reggie Owens, before we go, man, where can they follow you if there are any new viewers here?
You guys can follow me here on YouTube, Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens, and Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens with the number 2 at the end. So that's where I'm at, and that's where I'll be. But thank you guys for tuning in, man. That was a great conversation, and that was a fun trivia, man.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna start putting that element more in the show, Boxing Then and Now. Definitely, we're gonna start doing that trivia in the middle of the session, man. Definitely. Stormy B, man, any last words, bro? Where can they follow you?
First, I want to. I'll tell you. Everybody can follow me right here on YouTube. Stormy B, man, is my channel, and we got some good things coming up in the future. You know, I'm glad that the sport of boxing is back. We can talk about it, man. And thank you again, Renee Box Young, for having me on your show, man. It's a very interesting platform you got going here with the shows that you do and the content that you produce. And I wanted to hear your take on what you thought about the fight tonight, because you didn't give us that before we go.
Oh, perfect.
You had to say.
Definitely, man. Definitely. I totally agree. I think the thing here is I see Ramirez as the more you know, aggressive fighter. I think that you know, Postal is quite skilled and technical, you know what I mean? But I see Ramirez just more powerful on the inside, has them harder power shots, and just pretty much what you were saying, Stormy B. Them hooks are and the body. The thing here is that Ramirez is going to bring a different you know, approach to Victor Postal. Obviously, styles make fights, right? You know, I don't think Postal. Well, I'm sure he has been hit to the body quite a bit. I remember from, if I'm not mistaken, Josh Taylor, he was going down there a lot also. Not too much maybe, but I think that he hasn't faced the power of a Ramirez going to the body. So I think personally Ramirez is going to break down Postal, man. I just think that's what's going to happen. I think he's going to break him down, and he'll probably take the knee. I kind of see a knockout, but then again, Postal's good with his jab. He's good, you know, technical fighting on the outside. I think personally he's going to use the. I'm not sure. Is Postal taller than Ramirez?
By 1 inch.
And does he have more reach?
The reach is kind of similar, but it's interesting that you said what you said about a possible. Remember, I said middle to late round stoppage, right, for Ramirez. But I just wanted to slip this in there too. I don't think that Postal's ever really been in there with an opponent who was really trying to knock him out.
Right.
And Ramirez is that guy. You better believe it. Ramirez is going to be going for the knockout. Imagine what he says post-fight when he says, I'm the first guy to take Postal out. You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
That's going to make all the difference in the world. And I think that that's why Postal is in trouble.
Yeah, me too. I predict it around the middle of the fight, maybe around round 8. It's going to be over, man. I mean, Ramirez is just too aggressive, great on the inside, going to the body, and he's just going to take him out, man. He's going to do that body work, and it's game over, man. That's why I think it's going to happen. Thanks so much, Storm B, for asking that, man. I don't really, you know, I mostly go to you guys, but definitely, bro. So I appreciate you guys. Kurtis Anderson went out, you know, a little issue with his phone. It's all good. He'll be on the next series, no problem. He was here for most of the day, so it was great, man. Thank you guys so much. Boxing Then and Now. Everybody who was in, man, I appreciate each and every one of you. Big homie Coop, thanks so much. Bruce goes, you know, because right now Reggie Owens is going to go call the Dubois fight. Underrated Darkness, Soccer Training, man, Black Star T, all you guys, man. I appreciate each and every one. Derek Bailey, you know, all the names that came in. Kenneth Johnson, love you guys so much, man. We're going to continue Boxing Then and Now Part 8 in the near future. Possibly next week. I'm going to get with the guys and see what they think throughout the week. And we're going to get at it, man. I appreciate you guys so much. Like, subscribe to my channel, right? And we're going to keep pushing things. Go subscribe to Stormy B. Go subscribe to Reggie Owens. He's about to call the fight right now, Dubois fight. So thank you guys so much, man. Take care, Reggie Owens. Take care, Stormy B. Take care, Kurtis. Love you guys, man. Thank you guys so much. Can you guys just stay 1 minute right after this, all right? Thank you guys so much, man, all right? Thank you. Peace out. Peace out, family. Love you guys. One community, one love, family. We out.
All right, peace.